this move about McGregor walking away from fighting, or is he walking away from the UFC and Dana White?
It has all the earmarks of negotiation. You never say never, but even in a vacuum, a retired fighter is a rarity. To think that Conor McGregor in the prime of his career would walk away makes you scratch your head. But I think you nailed it, Maggie. I mean, I think the whole bigger picture, the landscape, the tableau of the UFC really looms large here. This is about leverage and negotiation, and the fact is that the UFC is in a much different place than it was a year ago. So is Conor McGregor, and you wonder how much of this is simply a negotiating ploy, him thinking he has leverage.
Yeah, have other fighters been able to use their leverage to make demands of the UFC? I mean, does Conor McGregor have a roadmap here?
That's a great question, and the challenge that all fighters run into when they attempt to negotiate with the UFC is that there aren't a lot of alternatives. Maybe Conor McGregor is a big enough star that a whole promotion can be circled and centered around him, but you do wonder where he's going to have the exposure and the money that the UFC has given him, even if he feels he's being underpaid in the UFC. But, you know, you have a sense that this will eventually be worked out. I mean, I think the UFC is worth too much to him. He's worth too much to the UFC. But it's very interesting. You mentioned it. Jon Jones fights on Saturday night, and he ought to be the sport's biggest star, but he's had his issues. Ronda Rousey's future is very cloudy still. We're almost 6 months after the fight. And Conor McGregor is really the star despite the loss to Diaz. And clearly he thinks he has a fair amount of leverage here. It'll be really interesting to see. I know there are a lot of fighters who are sort of pulling up a cage-side seat because I think this is going to set a huge precedent either way.
If McGregor does retire, John, what do you think he would do next? There's been a lot of speculation out there.
Well, he told us he was going to take his money and go back to Ireland and live a happy, quiet life, and that was just a few weeks ago. I mean, again, it's very hard. Ironically enough, I was talking to Chuck Liddell yesterday while this tweet was issued. Chuck Liddell is closer to 50 than he is to 40, and he doesn't consider himself retired. So it's very hard to see Conor McGregor saying, okay, on to the next part of life. He's already tried being a plumber. That didn't work. He could be a promoter. There are all sorts of ways for him to get involved. His celebrity is obviously sky high right now. But again, I wouldn't go too far down the road of what Conor McGregor's next career. One suspects that a deal will be reached and he'll be fighting again.